With a ceasefire in place, albeit a fragile one White House official after another is claiming total victory over Iran.
Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory.
Over the course of 38 days of major combat operation, the joint force achieved the military objectives as defined by the president.
This is a victory for the United States of America that the president and our incredible military made happen.
But even as Trump touts a total victory, he's been quick to point fingers at critics who say facts prove otherwise. As Susan Glasser writes, if this was victory, I'd hate to see what failure looks like. One significant problem with the ceasefire? Trump conditioned it on the complete, immediate and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, but monitors say that has not happened. Joining us now, retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral John Kirby, an MS Now national security analyst and former White House national security communications advisor. Good to see you again. Has this war been a total victory?
No, of course not. No. I mean, just by dint of the fact that you're in a ceasefire tells you that it's not over. A ceasefire is designed to provide breathing space for diplomats to come together and hopefully get some sustainable peace talks underway, and that's what we're hoping will happen on Saturday. But no, of course not. I mean, if you just look at the military objectives that the president set out and Secretary Hegseth set out, they're not all achieved. The strait is still closed. The Iranian Navy may have largely been destroyed, but they still can shut down the strait through mines and through drones. They still have ballistic missiles at the ready and are continuing to fire them, a little less than they were before, 20 or so per day, but they can still reach out and hit targets. And, of course, there was really no action against the proxy groups, the Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, or the militia groups in Iraq and Syria that they claimed they were going to go after at the beginning. So, no. And then, of course, the big one, Chris, is the regime is still in power. There may have been a change in leaders, but it's not a change in regime. The regime is still running Iran. So I don't think by any measure you can look at what's going on and saying that it was a victory.
I want to read more from Susan Glasser today. Quote, superpowers rarely inflict such swift and straightforwardly embarrassing injury to themselves. The Vietnam War lasted nearly 2 decades. The war in Iraq unfolded over nearly 9 years. This act of self-harm took just 38 days. I mean, there are a number of possible outcomes, right? The U.S. continues the war for a long time, as we saw previously. They could declare, as they have, a false victory and more or less walk away. Is the administration's best alternative at this point just to cut its losses?
What I hope they're looking at is that their best option is some sort of negotiated settlement here that can end the war. I think everybody wants the war to end, of course. Even the Iranians do, to end the war in a negotiated settlement that does a couple of things. It actually does remove Iran's threats to its neighbors, which are still existing now through their ballistic missile capability. Even the fact that they still have enriched uranium available to them, that literally changes the post-conflict governance to a set of leaders or a leadership that can be responsive to the needs of the Iranian people. The regime, that's not it. And I think one terrible outcome of this would be leaving the regime in power. Now, I don't know how you get there through negotiation when that's who you're negotiating with, but that would be a positive outcome as well. I think that would be the best outcome, is some sort of negotiated settlement to end the war and make sure that Iran is no longer a threat to its people or to the region. But honestly, Chris, when you just look at the landscape of where we are and where J.D. Vance is going into these negotiations on Saturday, it's hard to see that that's going to be a viable outcome here.
Well, how much leverage do you think each side has here, and what is that leverage?
You know, it's interesting you should ask that question, because yesterday I also noticed that the Iranians, the regime, the IRGC, the mullahs, they were declaring victory too. Hey, we won. So they're going into these talks with the biggest chip on the table, and that's the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, obviously, they still have the chip that the enriched uranium is still in Iran. They still have the regime in power. They're going in being able to claim rightly that they still have ballistic missile and drone capability to reach out and attack their neighbors. But the biggest chip they've got is the Strait of Hormuz, and they've proven that they can control traffic in there, sometimes without even firing a shot, just by the fear that they can induce through likely attacks in the region. And I think that will be the biggest thing that the Trump administration will want to get out of these talks over the weekend, is to get that strait open in a reliable and a sustainable way.
The new inflation numbers today drove home in a very obvious way the cost of this war. So I want to ask you, while we have you, about the importance of getting facts. A federal judge has ruled that the Defense Department violated that court order to restore access to the Pentagon for reporters. What are we losing when independent, experienced journalists don't have that kind of access in a time of war?
Well, not only are we, the American people, losing the context that you need. I mean, there's no more important decision that an administration makes than to go to war. The American people have a right to know, and the Pentagon has an obligation to tell them how they're spending their tax dollars and how they're putting their sons and daughters in harm's way. But the thing that just befuddles me is that Pentagon leadership don't also realize that they're losing as a result of this. I can't tell you. I mean, I stood at that podium under 3 different secretaries of defense, and I can't tell you how important it was for me to be able to do my job and my boss to be able to do his job, to have the press close by, to have your policies scrutinized by an independent media every single day, and to be able to help shape the discussion with the press over what they were covering and why and how they were covering it. When you kick them out of the building, when you shut them down, when you don't take questions from them in the briefing room, you're actually hurting yourself. You're hurting your ability to make informed, good policy decisions. And you're reducing your ability to change your mind if you need to change your mind because the policy's wrong. Press coverage can sometimes do that for you. So it's really self-defeating, and I honestly hope that Mr. Hegseth and the Pentagon leadership will come around to a different way of thinking here, because it really is to their benefit as well, not just us as consumers, but their benefit to have the press close by and to make themselves available to them.